Welcome to Spark Your Joy, Encounters with Spirituality and Creativity, a monthly podcast in which I, Iva Buzhashka, will be interviewing international artists, filmmakers, musicians, sound healers, yoga teachers, wisdom teachers, creatives, about their life journeys and exploration of spirituality, creativity, and everything in between. Welcome to Spark Your Joy, Encounters with Spirituality and Creativity. My name is Iva Buzhashka and I'm your host today. And I'm very excited to introduce to you my guest today. His name is Wojtek and he is a storyteller, YouTuber, filmmaker, what was it? Weirdo, living in a van, exploring life, and making things that make you think. And this is his definition, and I really agree with that. What he does really makes you think. And yeah, I will let you present yourself. But yeah, I wanted to mention that we met here where we are now, and student co-living, co-working space in Spain. And I found out about his YouTube channel, just Wojtek. I will put it in description, and you must visit it. Uh, and so I popped onto a video entitled Beyond Travel, and I really resonated with its content, and I thought, wow, it would be great to have a conversation with the creator of this video and spark your joy. So here we are, and before before I let you present yourself, maybe I want to ask you first, what is Beyond Travel? Welcome, Wojtek.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm as well excited for this conversation. And the whole idea behind Beyond Travel was basically that it was a concept in my mind, something that I've been thinking about, which comes really from two places. One is I was trying to be a content creator, a travel content creator. Then while traveling, I realized that's not what I want to do. I mean, it was fun and it was fun learning and exploring, but I just figured that's really not where I want to go with things long term. I cannot see myself being a content creator in 10 years, not even in 3 years. So that's one. The second part was Kat and I, my wife and I, we've been traveling for a while, and traveling is something very beautiful that can give you a lot, but traveling can also just be escapism, just trying to move away from the things that you may want to or actually even should think about, things that need your attention in life. So I just naturally came to the conclusion that now that we've traveled a lot and we kind of can keep on traveling, I need to find some kind of meaning in this whole endeavor. So instead of only trying to keep on traveling forever and ever, which turns into an eternal escape, I wanted to articulate somehow how that translates to me. And it's just as I'm saying it, it's so hard to put into words, which very often is why I make those videos. Because with a video, with a film, I have the visual aspect. I have the words, the writing, but I also have music. I can express so much more than just now talking about it. So Beyond Travel, in a nutshell, is the idea that there's waiting something beyond that idealized idea of traveling, something very personal, something very individual, that's up to you to explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think I would definitely think about it for myself. and and yeah, and for you, maybe yeah, you can present yourself with a little bit of a personal or professional story, whatever you feel sharing, and then also what did you find out maybe for for yourself, and another question to it because yeah, I also found out that you live in a van with your wife, and your home is on the move. So what does this look like? Also, I'm curious to hear.
I'm really bad with introductions. That's also probably why my Insta bio says filmmaker, storyteller, weirdo, or it says YouTuber, storyteller, weirdo. I don't even know these days. I identify mostly with the weirdo part. I'm a person that doesn't really stick to concepts, and I don't like to be labeled, not really. Some people say that's my Aquarius. I say I don't give a shit. Um, Professionally, I've been actually trained to be an insurance broker. Then I went, yeah, really exciting, right? I studied journalism and PR, which was a bit more into the direction of what I'm doing today, a bit more of some people would call it a creative approach. This is where I really found my love for researching something, for really looking things up and going deep in there, whereas for many people researching means doing a Google search for 5 minutes and then basically being content with what you find. Like doing a Google search for 3 days or something very often, but I love that. And after that, I basically quit everything that I had, all my jobs. Like in the midst of studying, I had my 9-year long-term job that was insurance. I quit that.
9 years?
Yeah,
Wow.
almost 9 years. Then I finished my studies, university. I did my thesis within a month, like write it and the, how do you say that, the verbal part.
Official defense.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a defense, I was more like presenting it, but yeah, I did that really quickly because after that we straight left for traveling for 555 days. At this point, Kat wasn't my wife, she was just my girlfriend, but we've been together for a while. We then got engaged at the very end of those travels, 1.5 years. And meanwhile, doing that, I was trying to be a content creator, and I started to learn more and more about filmmaking, and I slowly progressed into the video realm. Then I've been a video editor for a while, and now I'm pretty much just a full-time YouTuber content creator because I choose to do so. That's my professional path. If you want to ask more personal questions, go ahead, but this might take a while.
And what about the life in a van? The van is super cool. You could see on YouTube in the channel of Wojtek. You could see the van.
Yeah, so the van life is also related to that whole travel concept. Actually, it kind of also relates to the beyond travel idea and philosophy. The thing was, Kat and I, we've been living in Cologne after coming back from traveling. This was also a conscious choice. We didn't want to get stuck in our old habits and in our old ways. So we didn't go back to the town we lived in, but we moved somewhere else. And Cologne was beautiful, despite pandemic, despite everything. It was lovely. But it's not really what we want. Kat and I, we love to be close to nature, but we also love to explore. We love to satisfy our sense of novelty. And we figured a really good way would be to travel and live in a van. Because we didn't want to fly as much anymore. We've done that for a while. But we also kind of discovered that it's great to explore the world. But there's also so much to explore in Europe, which we yet did not really see. And in Europe, it's so much easier to relate to the people and the culture around to actually make contact, which when you are somewhere else is harder. It's not impossible, but it's definitely harder. And that's how we really came to the whole van life idea. Also, we realized when you live in a city and you want to travel somewhere, you need to still pay rent, right? Which is just, I don't know, that really doesn't seem good and smart to me, especially financially at the point we are at right now. We're not super wealthy. So paying, say, 1,000 euros rent while we're gone for a month, that's not a good deal. Whereas now we live in the place we also travel with, and we can be home wherever we would like.
Yeah. This just reminds me that once upon a time I wrote a blog post about the feeling of home. What is home? Which also that brought me to that. But anyways, I think I'm not gonna go towards that. Rather, I would like to ask you about. Well, maybe we could talk about that at one point as well, because it's interesting. I think for me, especially after traveling a lot. But now what I'm curious about is your project, your current project. Maybe if you could
tell us a little bit about that. And I realized that I have thought of a couple of questions that maybe at the end we can talk about that like more than an hour. But yeah, just a little bit to share with people who are watching and listening. And why? Why are you engaged with this project? And what inspires you to create?
Okay. This is a really layered question. Okay, the project I'm currently working on, the last video I put out is the truth about, what did I call it? I changed the title. It was meant to be, we need to fix the way we speak about emotions. Then it was the truth about the 6 basic emotions. I changed it to something different. I forgot. I'm not doing a very good job promoting myself here. Anyways, the whole video is about, the truth about emotional intelligence. I got it. The whole video is about our misconception of emotions. And our misconceptions mostly stem from old science and old ideas that translate into modernity, but are never really questioned. And I read a beautiful, beautiful book from Lisa Feldman Barrett, How Emotions Are Made, which not only transformed my view completely, but also installed a deep, deep curiosity for me to go deeper and explore that topic. So I'm not making one video, but I'm making a whole series. I'm making 4 videos in total. The next video will be the difference between thinking and feeling. And then there will be one video on emotional frequencies, which you may be familiar with or not. And the last video will be what are emotions? So kind of wrapping up that whole series and trying to really answer a question that many people have asked already. And I'm inspired to create content around this, mainly because there are so many beautiful non-scientific books. Other people tell me are unapproachable. And I read them and I digest them quite well. And I'm interested to learn more. And I think it's just, it's not sad, but it's such a bummer that there are so many great topics to be explored and people don't approach them because they feel that they cannot read the book. So I'm trying to digest those topics a little bit down. And for me, it's always important to not only give you information, but to also make you feel about it. So I want to create more of an experience than just a video or just information. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, to feel and also then eventually to think. That also makes us think. Yeah, I actually wanted my question was more not about your last video, and if even though that is like also quite interesting, and I must admit quite conflicting for me at one point when you say, what is this definition? Emotions are energy and motion, because this is like, as a yoga teacher, this is what I kind of relate to. So I really enjoy when I see in your videos these moments of breaking down what is like constructed around concept. Yeah, so it was more about like your entire project, the YouTube. What maybe not to tell us about all its content. I think we should leave our listener watchers to find out about it. But maybe what inspires you to create it, and it is very inspiring content also.
Okay, sorry if I got that wrong. So the reason I also got it wrong is because when you ask me about a project, I'm thinking about those things. The whole YouTube thing, I don't really consider that a project, but this is kind of my life. And I don't want to say YouTube is my life, but creating something, that really is how I identify mostly. So I don't really treat this as a project, but this is what I'm doing. This is part of who I am. It is natural for me to do those things. It's natural for me to create something. If I don't feel fully myself. So I guess what inspires me in that way is really what I just explained, the translating part. I like when there are 2 opposing concepts, like paradoxes, that you can bring together. And especially because I'm very people-focused, I think that's very often how you can bring people together. You have 2 very opposing views. Like, for instance, you also explained that you have an opposing view to the energy in motion idea, right? We can still talk about it. We can still land together on a point and be fine with what we're saying. And I feel that in a time where we are so divided, it's very often just for the sole reason of not listening. That's one thing that inspires me. And the other part is something I cannot explain. It's just something that's deep, deep inside of me and wants to be expressed. I feel that even though I have a lot of words, and some people would say that I'm somewhat eloquent, I very often lack the words to fully express myself. And this is what I try doing with my art.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it makes it even more like profound, I would say. Yeah, and well, and in that sense, you are a creator. I have to label you again. A storyteller, YouTuber, as the filmmaker, because these films are really professional. So yeah, so then, and this podcast is about creativity and spirituality. So I have to ask you, what is for you creativity? And do you think it is important in our lives or not?
I think it is absolutely crucial. I also think that there are, like, people will very often say, I'm not a creative person, and I don't believe that. People give themselves crap for not identifying with creative tasks. A creative task like design, filmmaking, writing, that's not creativity. That is just a task. That is purely mechanical. That is just execution. It's not creative. Creativity mainly happens in our minds. That's actually the most important part. And if you're doing a super boring task, but you need to find a creative solution, that affords creativity. But creativity is not only about solutions. For me personally, creativity is drawing from all resources around me and creating something new out of it. Some people say that there are no new ideas because everything is a remix. Like, there's also a series called that way, right? We take old things, we mix them together, and then we create something new. And some people say that's not new, that's just remixed. But it is new. And that does not only go for art, but it also goes for ideas, for science. Science and ideas are pretty close sometimes. But it goes for so many things in our world. It even goes for something like a new feeling you're feeling, right? You're feeling something inside your body, you're trying to make sense out of them, but you don't have quite the word until you find it. That is also something new. That's also creativity. That is using all the resources you have, the physical emotions you're feeling, the introspection of your mind, and then creating a new word out of it that makes it possible to translate to someone else what it is that you're feeling. That's creativity as well. And that is what creativity really is for me. And I think it's one of the most crucial aspects of human nature. Very neglected though, but it's more important than being able to handle numbers and sitting in fucking finance, because that's what algorithms and computers can do. Being creative, there's a lot of discussion around it, but AI really is not creative. AI lives off of the creativity of people right now. And breaking that point, like getting there, trying to make creative AI, creative machines, I'm not even sure that's really possible. People will speak against it, but creativity is, I dare not even really define it because it is so out there, it is so interesting, and if I have a god, it's probably creativity.
Oh, I love that. Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that also, in this yogic perspective, creativity is our nature as well. So, and then actually I had in mind a question that doesn't make really much sense now, because I wanted to ask you about what is novelty seeker, and also I wanted to ask you if you think novelty seekers are more creative than people who are not novelty seekers. But yeah, maybe let's start with that. Yeah.
I still think that's an excellent question. For me, it is really important to break the stereotypes around creativity so that people feel free to explore, really, themselves and also what they can do. Novelty seeking is a psychological aspect. It is a word we use, I don't know if we as psychologists, but we as humans use to describe an inner urge to explore new things. But novelty seeking has many different layers. There's, for instance, sensation seeking, which very often is something that people who seek out extreme sports explore. They literally are looking for new sensations. They want to feel the dopamine hits, right? But then there's also social curiosity. This is something that I have a lot. Like these days, being in a co-living, it's really hard for me to absent from all the conversations happening. I want to be in every conversation, even though I'm much of an introvert. But I'm just curious to get to know people, to get their perspectives, to get into their thinking. That's novelty seeking as well. So even when you're not necessarily a traveler or someone that tries new things on and on again, that doesn't mean that you're not novelty seeking. It just means that your aspects might be somewhere else. And there's really depth to that topic. And regarding the creativity question, I think it really depends. For me, I need to explore things in order to get creative. I need to train this creative muscle, even though it's not really a muscle. But it's when we're speaking about it in terms of the brain, there are different connections in my brain, and some apply for divergent thinking, as you would call it, which very often is associated with creative thinking. When I never do that, those connections are not strengthened because they're not used very much, so I'm not so creative. I know that I need to explore things. For other people, it might be the opposite. They might actually go into isolation and have some time to really think about stuff, to then come up with something creative. A beautiful example for this is Bo Burnham, who created Inside, like the comedy special where he kind of like, the premise is he locked himself in for a year inside his flat and then created this comedy special. That's the premise. I'll leave it up to people to watch and interpret it for themselves. I just think it's really great work. But yeah, if people feel like they are not really drawn out, it doesn't mean that they're not creative. I think many authors spend days and days inside their homes not going out anywhere, but they have a vivid inner life to explore and create beautiful fantasy novels, for instance. So I think more important than being a novelty seeker or not is your self-access, your access to yourself and how you explore the world mentally than physically. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, so that also kind of precedes what I also wanted to ask you about it. Does stability is stability a ground for creation, for creativity basically, or is it impediment? Because I also really liked your video about novelty seeking, your talk about security, not stability, but security versus novelty, right? So that was also very interesting for me. And of course, stability maybe is a little bit different than security exactly, but do you think it is condition for creativity?
I think it is absolutely a premise. This is one of my more extreme opinions. I'm thinking a lot about the whole topic of freedom and what it actually is and what it means, not only from my privileged point of view, but also from a philosophical and all-encompassing point of view, which I may not be able to follow up to. And it's very closely related to creativity. Creativity is basically the freedom to either mentally or physically explore something new, right? But if you don't have enough security, if you have to, let's put it extreme, if you don't know how to get food day in, day out, if you don't know where to sleep day in, day out, you don't have time to explore something new. You are too busy keeping yourself alive. You are too busy getting through the day. There's no time in getting creative. It may be, though, that all those experiences you've made, and once you've successfully established security or someone else help you establish that you can get incredibly creative with those experiences. You have a lot of resources to draw from. But while you're in the middle of trying, like literally yearning for stability, there's no room for creativity. And it's something that personally bothers me when I speak to other travelers that think it's always freedom versus security, not realizing that the security they have, especially in the Western world, the financial stability, the financial possibility, the attachment to their parents, knowing that there is some home waiting for them, even if they don't necessarily want to admit it, all that is what enables them to travel and to explore. It's not freedom versus security, it's freedom because of security.
Yeah. Yeah, I find this opinion very interesting, and I need to think about it because I am probably from these people that think stability kind of costs you up and to, something that doesn't allow you to, explore or move or be fluid. So, yeah, sometimes I've had the feeling. I will reconsider though, but I had this feeling of the stability being an impediment for my sense of freedom, and yeah, and I think that yeah, maybe since we already talk about freedom, and you have an amazing video in which you asked like a lot of people around the world about freedom. Maybe we can talk about this as well. Yeah, actually,
We can also speak.
about stability.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm still thinking about it.
I can say something about stability.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the whole idea is, for whatever reason, we are natural dualists. So we always like to think in at least two terms, in categories. Yet I would assume when you look at your life, you very often don't want to be either one or the other thing. You want to be on a spectrum and you want to be fluent on it, right? For instance, we would not consider a person fully emotional capable if that person is only able to feel one part of their emotions. If you're only able to be happy all the time and positive all the time, that doesn't make you a full person. You become a full person, you become relatable to me when you can be happy and positive, but sad and negative, quote unquote, as well. It is like that full emotional spectrum, filling that out. This is really what I think being human is all about. And the same goes for instance, let's pick freedom and stability, where I think stability is not really the opposite. But you don't want a life that's only stability, because that is confining. You don't know where to go and you cannot leave your home, pretty much almost. That's what a lot of us have experienced during the pandemic. That doesn't feel good. But a life only free, full of freedom, no stability, nobody really wants that, because you feel lost. You feel like you can be at no place at no time. You feel like you cannot stay anywhere. I mean, I think many people might not necessarily get this point because people wish for full freedom, but they do not realize that full freedom basically means that you have to abandon all security, everything. But that's not what people want. People want to know where they sleep at night every once in a while. People want to know where they get food from every once in a while. People, at least in modern society, want to be clothed. They want to have something on. I mean, if you want to go nude, that's absolutely up to you. But there are some needs you want to satisfy, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to be either or. You are living on a spectrum, and it's absolutely fine to go from one side to the other, because balance is never a point on the spectrum. Balance is the ability to fill out the full spectrum and be fine with it. That's the way I see it.
Even, for instance, the lockdown you mentioned, even though you are not moving out of your home, you might also feel free at some point, right? If you are connected to yourself at inner peace, and yeah, or like for me personally, I was thinking of what is freedom for me. I was thinking about it, and I think it's like this inner peace and this trust in life. That's yeah, you just trust and then you let go. You're not like trying to control, and you co-work with life basically. Yeah, and for you, for you, what is freedom? And the most important, because I really like the way, oh, I don't know if I would spoil the video. The question is not what is freedom for you, but are you free?
I really stay away these days from trying to define that word for many, many reasons. As soon as you get just a little bit into the philosophy of freedom and the meaning of it, you realize that there are many different definitions, many different conceptions. And I think what people very often try to define is ultimate freedom, which I just explained is a concept that does not work for many reasons. One of the reasons is I believe freedom is something that only exists because of its opposite. There are many things that only exist because of its opposite. Like, for instance, happiness might just exist because there is sadness. If there would be nothing opposite to happiness, happiness would be normal. It would be the average, right? And likewise, I think that freedom is something that exists because there are constraints. I like to refer to those constraints, especially when it's about the concept of freedom, as responsibilities. There are some, for instance, biological responsibilities. You need to keep yourself alive, so you got to satisfy those needs. But then there are also social responsibilities, and I feel that is what is bothering people these days very often. They don't want to feel like they're confined by society or by their friends or by their parents, and I get that, but there's an alternative to just pushing everyone to the sidelines away and then doing your thing. The alternative is to actually get into conversation, get in touch with each other, and figure out which of these are really my responsibilities and which do I feel only responsible for. And that is how I can explore my own freedom depending on my personal situation. In terms of if I feel free or not, I think that goes into free will, and I'm not sure if we want to get into this because that is a question about philosophical belief and reasoning, I think, mostly. I don't think these days so often about whether I'm free or not. I just think that I'm very, very privileged to live a life with many, many possibilities, and that is enough. Just being able to explore and experience this life is enough. I don't need anything extra right now. If I get anything extra, I'm thankful for it, I'm grateful for it, but I don't need to achieve a certain word, like almost getting a certificate or something. I don't need that. Life is enough.
Yeah, that's actually what maybe I can reframe it. Not are you free, but are you? If I take my perception of freedom into account, are you at peace with yourself? Are you connected to yourself? If you want to share, of course, it's like such a personal question. Actually, I realized, but if you don't want to share that, maybe I can take it into a little bit towards life, as you said, life and what is life. You just actually explained that, but is there anything spiritual, and what is spiritual for you? Because for me, life is to a certain extent a spiritual thing. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. What is life? What is spirituality? What else was in there?
What is the purpose of life?
Okay, but there was one other question in there, wasn't there?
About inner peace.
Oh, yeah. A sentence that I really, really like is be content but never be satisfied. I feel very content with my life. I'm very happy about it. When I wake up happy most of the days. And when I go to sleep content most of the days. And this is really what counts. Even when there are moments and days which are not like that, that is fine. Just like I explained the spectrum, that is needed to attain some sort of balance. And with like so many things, that must be enough. I don't aim to go higher than content. Content is already more than good, because content for me means, and maybe that refers to inner peace, that there's nothing I need to add. I don't need anything extra. I don't need anything on top. No cherry, nothing. It's just the way it is perfect. And every moment is unique. And I feel it's my responsibility to open up to that moment, to open up to life, and not to say, oh, I want to go higher, I want to go further, which is something that troubles me with modern spirituality movements, where the idea is you can always go higher, you can always go better, you can always do one more retreat, there's a next stage of enlightenment. I don't know.
Next stage of enlightenment.
For me, spirituality is something that connects our common humanity through being fine and believing in something that there is beyond our grasp. And I think many people refer to the same thing without realizing. Scientists, for instance, which are very often like the antithesis of spirituality, they very often look for something that's not there. They want to find out what is that thing. Something we have points towards a certain direction. There is something and we want to know what is that. Say, for instance, quantum physics before they were properly discovered, like the particles, like electrons, neurons, protons, etc. And then they explore that. And depending on the path you choose, you have just different ways of exploring it. Very often people speak about the same thing. And I personally think spirituality is the endeavor of seeking for it, not of finding it, not for claiming that I have something, that I found something, but it's just the openness to go out there and find something new, and then move on, and find something new, and then move on, and find something new. That eternal seeking, that for me is spirituality.
And okay, yeah, but in a sense that you find something new, because that kind of brings me to the the wheel of life, right? Like looking for something, in need of something, and then after being satisfied this need, another need. But you probably, I don't know in what sense you are. Because that is in the spiritual realm, that is what we want to go out of, like these circles, and which, yeah, at the end, the enlightenment is supposedly the space where you actually don't need and don't need this something in order to be satisfied and then to go to the next.
So I think what spirituality refers to, especially the traditional ways, are desires. From desire arises suffering, that's the idea, right? But I think those are mostly desired based on the modern life.
Okay.
No one tells you to stop eating. No one tells you to stop sleeping. Like, these are very natural things you follow. And I feel that this inner urge to explore and seek is also something very natural. It's something we draw satisfaction from. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think many people go into spirituality to find a sense of inner peace, which is something positive. It's a desire. So I think there seems to be some confusion around these desires. I have to be honest here, I did not go fully into the spiritual lecture to find out what they mean. I think there's also a lot of, not translation errors, but misconceptions that arose in the translation, since many texts are either translated from Tibetan writings or from Indian writings, right? Where we even have sometimes trouble translating our Western philosophies and what people actually meant. A concept I would rather think about is uncertainty. I think that the source of suffering is not desire, but it is uncertainty. And we always have uncertainty. Every day we wake up, we don't know what will happen. And we seek to control that. And I think what many spiritual movements and teachings refer to is to let go of that idea of control. Be fine with controlling what you can control, like the Stoic practices, and let go of what you cannot control, not obsessing about it. Making sure that the most important things are in place, but then letting life unfold and see where it leads you.
Yeah. This is what I refer to also when I was talking about freedom, and then I just realized that I wanted to ask you something more. We are almost how do we go? Okay, we are almost at the end of our conversation, but I'm just curious about something, because this is again this part of this video that was saying that there is something else that can change everything, something else than something different from for instance morning spiritual routine, which I personally have, and this is the tool that helps me come and to to myself. But so it is very interesting for me, and this is not like it's exactly kind of engendering kind of more interest. What is it? This habit, if you can share.
I think you are referring to curiosity. Yeah, so I made this one video about the one habit that can change your life, and I still subscribe to that belief that it's curiosity, because that is what comes before people even get into any habit. It's the idea of, I wonder what if. And I think curiosity is such a beautiful feeling. I've very often spoken in this conversation of an urge to seek. And an urge is something heavy. It's like almost screaming inside of you. It's like brute force putting you out there. And curiosity is like the little brother or the little sister, so much cuter. And it's like a tickling that's like, what if we would do that? What if we would try that? What if I would go to this place? And I think many people these days suppress it because it's like something, oh yeah, this is not rational and this is not helping my life, etc., etc. But it's just such a beautiful feeling you can base your life on and go into many, many different places and find ultimately some form of fulfillment. It is, I think, especially detrimental in the young days of our life. But if we didn't really nurture that in our young days, I think we should do that later on at least. Or maybe never stop. Curiosity is just this beautiful sense of not forcing yourself to go out there, but just naturally following that instinct. And not even like have a goal. I'm not a goal person. Not have a goal of, I want to establish this habit, but just figuring out, what if I would change my routine? What would that look like? What if I would go to Greece? How would my life look like if I stay there for a month or half a year? What if I would try to digitalize my job instead of working in an office? And then just following that and really applying action to it. When you're bored in life, I think that's the one best thing you can do. Just nurture your curiosity. And I think people don't need to go all in, but you can do it step by step. Start little, build up on that, and see where your curiosity leads you. For me at least, it's pretty satisfying so far.
Yeah, I see you in a good place. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking curiosity is what moves us, right? Yeah, so I have a question that I really usually ask my guests. It is a big one, but we can we can just mention a little bit about it. How can we contribute to making a better world? And how do you think that your work contributes to that process of making the world a better place?
One thing I keep on saying is just be a good fucking human being, you know? Be a relatable person. Be someone that is out there to connect. And I read a beautiful book from Carl Deiseroth. He's a psychiatrist and bioengineer, and he has an incredible writing style. So it's a non-fiction book, but it reads like a novel. And there's a sentence in there, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something along those lines. That person feels alone, and I am there to listen, and listening is not nothing. So I think with my videos, if it's just one person watching them and something changes just a little bit in a positive way for that person, that's enough. And I think that's very often the best we can do. You know, people want to do those big things, but then you need to ask yourself, why do you want to do those big things? Because they're good or because you want to feel seen? And helping others is not about you. Helping others is about others.
Yeah, and about all of us at the end, right?
Yeah.
About the world we live in. Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think that people who go to the YouTube channel of Wojtek would be touched and something will appear. So you should do that. And yeah, last question, where to from now? What is next for you?
I don't know. I like to say that. It's a great place to be in. Right now we're in a co-living in Javea in Spain. We might stick around for a bit, even after we end the co-living experience. We want to explore Andalusia. Meanwhile, keep doing what I do. And I don't know. There's nothing... I mean, I'm looking forward to traveling and I can name all the places. But I mainly look forward to do what I'm doing right now. I don't feel like what I'm doing is boring. And I don't feel like I need anything more right now. And that is a great place to be in. At some point, some desire, as we've spoken about, will come. And we'll see if I need to satisfy that. But as long as I'm content, I'm very happy to fully tap into that. and to just be happy with where I am right now.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for for being my guest. Do you have any message or last thing to say to, I don't know, if you wanted to share something?
Yeah,
Or,
I guess one thing.
okay, yeah.
I implied that a little bit on a few occasions, and also with your last question. But I think one of the most important things you can do these days is to be there for one another and to listen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much again for being a part of Spark Your Joy, Encounters with Spirituality and Creativity. So, for everyone who is watching and listening to us, I will put just Wojtek as the YouTube channel and also the Instagram. Well, the Instagram you find through the YouTube channel. And if you are curious, how creative are you? You can head over my website, which is also in the description, and take the quiz, How Creative Are You? And receive a little gift to help you stay connected to your creativity. So thank you again, and and enjoy your day.